Alright, now we're gonna change it up a little bit. We have Neilee coming up, and she's gonna be singing, telling us some poetry. Right? Is that what's happening, Neilee? Alright, so we have some poetry reading for Neilee. Everyone, give it up.
Yeah, hi, so I'm Neilee, and we're going to switch it up a little bit, all of this great guitar music, but I can neither play guitar nor sing, but I can write poetry kind of well, so I wanted to share some of that with all of you. The first one is called Teacups. We sit side by side like two red teacups, each with a different flavor held within separate bowls, but the steam rises and intertwines like ivy. So, has anyone ever had a time where they have someone call their name and you can't quite figure out where you know that person from? Yes. Yes, that's what the next one's about. It's called 3 Seconds Too Long. A voice called my name in the bookstore. Familiar, cataloged and labeled inside the file cabinet wrinkles of my brain. And there's an employee, a girl, quiet, glasses, a Pink Floyd t-shirt tucked into a high-waisted blue skirt. A girl who is familiar in the way that flavors are familiar. Your tongue hails them as friends, but your brain must search through all its file cabinet wrinkles before it calls them cinnamon, or basil, or the creaminess of milk. So as with flavors, it takes me 3 seconds too long to flip through to the right page of the yearbook of my mind and find her name. She's noticed and frowns, a clinch in the air while I stumble and smile, but those 3 seconds lie like a spider web on my skin, telling me, the same girl, with longer hair, glasses added, and a bow to her shoulders, a pulling inward like a child's collapsible telescope, a breathy thing now, a comma to be overlooked just as she disregarded commas in her own poetry. But before, in a green sundress in front of a wall of windows, hands on her hips like Peter Pan crowing, an exclamation point in her own life.
Poetry, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Another one I'd like to share with you is not one of mine. It's by a poet called Mary Oliver, and she's a really great poet who has a lot of natural nature imagery, and so I wanted to share one called Mold by Mary Oliver. Under the leaves, under the first loose levels of earth, they're there, quick as beetles, blind as bats, shy as hares, but seem less than these, traveling among the pale girders of apple root, rock shelves, nests of insects, and black pastures of bulbs peppery and packed full of the sweetest fruit. Spring flowers. Field after field, you can see the traceries of their long walks. Then the rain blurs even this faint hint of them. So excitable, so plush, so willing to continue generation after generation, accomplishing nothing but their brief physical lives as they live and die, pushing and shoving with their stubborn muzzles against the whole earth, finding it delicious. And so I've taken a lot of inspiration from poems like hers, a lot of the nature imagery, and so the next one I'd like to read is one of mine called Autumn in August. If you were to look at the trees, you would say it was autumn. The spindly branches are crowned with leaves like monarch butterfly wings. But the calendar reads August, and the trees are gasping silently, blighted under the tyrannical heat of the Oklahoma sun. They are drained husks now, their roots reaching down, clutching after something that is no longer there. And if you were to look at us, you would say we were doing well, considering. But we feel our skin drying out, feel ourselves becoming scratchy and gnarled as we reach out, our roots only clutching dust, and we find that we are as delicate as butterfly wings. And because we don't know what to do, we stand still and dumb in the sun, and like the trees, we burn. I wrote that last year when The drought had everything so dry, and it was around the same time that my grandfather had passed away, so I wanted to put those two images together. But my mom and I really like watching the birds who come to our bird feeder, and after one of her friends died, we named the blue jay Eddie after him, and so I wrote this poem, Afterlife, to kind of commemorate that. In our mythology, the faces on the obituary columns that hang in our refrigerator and sleep in keepsake boxes awaken from their frozen photographic state and slip inside the skulls of the birds who peck at the sunflower seeds in our backyard. They trade their fingers for feathers and return to the solid world as colored omens who cluster and convene among the ivy in the trees to remind us that they have not gone far. And as I watch them, I realize that the chickadees are the children, boisterous, bouncing, and numerous, the mourning doves and their brood, the stooped little ladies from church, who lurched unsteady on their canes and praised my singing of the hymns, the mockingbird, my favorite teacher, whose avian eye has not stopped questioning, the finch, my dancer sister, who can finally fly with these hollow bones, and the blue jay, well, the blue jay is Eddie, of course. I wanted to share another one, a little bit about death, but kind of moving into a lighter mood. It's from a poet that I took a class from during high school, and it's called The White Museum by George Bilguer. My aunt was an organ donor, and so the day she died, her organs were harvested for medical science. I suppose there must be people who lived under occupation, organ harvester, people for whom it is always harvest season, each death bringing its bounty. They spend their days loading wagon loads of kidneys, whole cornucopias of corneas, burlap sacks groaning with hearts and lungs and the pale green sprouts of gallbladders, and even from time to time, the weighty cauliflower of a brain. And perhaps today, as I sit in this cafe, watching the snow and thinking about my aunt, a young medical student somewhere is moving through the white museum of her brain, making his way slowly from one great room to the next. Here is the gallery of her childhood, with that great canvas depicting her father holding her on his lap in the backyard of their bungalow of St. Louis. And here's the sketch of her the summer after her mother died, walking down a street in Berlin when the broken city was itself a museum. And here is a small, vivid oil of the two of us, sitting in a cafe in London, arguing over the works of Constable, or Turner, or Francis Bacon after a visit to the Tate. I want you to know, as you sit there with your microscopes and your slides, there's no need to be reverent before these images. That's the last thing she would have wanted. But do be respectful. Speak quietly. No flash photography. Tell your friends you saw something beautiful. I just have a couple more. I'm actually a biology major, and so some of my anatomy friends are here. And when you do dissections, you start to look at things a little differently. And so the next one is called Dissection of a Fetal Pig. Even after running the scalpel down his beige belly and pinning back his flesh, even after seeing the hard fist of his heart, the closed gate of his ribcage, and the bean-shaped kidneys so like our own, even after the girls at the next work table hacked into his brother's head and held his little gray brain in the palm of their hands, even after all of that, I still expected him to suddenly roll over, shake his triangle ears, grunt, and run squealing out of the classroom.
Yeah, anatomy.
Yes, anatomy. Some of those were kind of heavy, so I wanted to do a couple light ones near the end about love. And so this next one is called In the Darkness. Tonight, nothing is needed but these puffs of air that push past our lips and float in the small space between our noses. Emotions drifting on our breath like dandelions on the breeze that swirl down to touch my cheek and caress me. And the final one is by a slam poet who does a lot more performance poetry than I ever have, by Taylor Molly, and it's called How Falling in Love is Like Owning a Dog. First of all, it's a big responsibility, especially in a large city like New York. So think long and hard before deciding on love. On the other hand, love gives you a sense of security. When you're walking down the street late at night and you've got a leash on love, ain't nobody gonna mess with you. Because crooks and muggers think love is unpredictable, because who knows what love will do in its own defense. On cold winter nights, love is warm. It lies between you and lives and breathes and makes funny noises. Love wakes you up at all hours of the night with its needs. It needs to be fed so it will grow up strong and healthy. Love doesn't like being left alone for long, but come home and love is always happy to see you. It may break a few things accidentally in its passion for life, but you can never be mad at love for long. Is love good all of the time? No. No. Love can be bad. Bad love. Bad. Very bad love. Love makes messes. Love leaves you little surprises here and there all around the apartment. And love needs a lot of cleaning up after. Love, sometimes you want to roll up a piece of newspaper and swat love on the nose. Not so much to cause pain, but just to say, don't you ever do that again. And sometimes you get so frustrated that you just want to get love fixed. But most of the time, love just wants to go out for a nice long walk, because love loves exercise. It will run you around the block and leave you panting, breathless, pull you in different directions at once, or wind itself around and around you until you're wound all up and you cannot move. Love makes you meet people wherever you go, people who have nothing in common but love. Stop and talk to each other on the street. Throw things away, and love will bring them back to you, again and again and again. But most of all, love needs love, lots of it. And in return, love loves you and never stops.
Wow. All I have to say is, wow. Let's give Neilee another round of applause. That was amazing. Next dog I get, I'm going to name it Love.